Well, hello. This is the assignment for Monday, March 23rd. A reminder that when we are finished with this presentation, there are questions for you to answer. 1948 was a presidential election year. Now, Harry Truman, who is our president, became president upon the death of Franklin Roosevelt. So the Republicans felt they had an excellent chance. This is a picture of Thomas Dewey delivering a speech. Thomas Dewey had run against Franklin Roosevelt in '44 and quite honestly had done very well. The Democratic Party goes into the convention in disarray. There are many people who say, well, you know, Truman just isn't progressive enough. And they turn to this man, Henry Wallace, who had been Secretary of the Agriculture under Franklin Roosevelt. You remember the Agricultural Adjustment Administration. That was part of Wallace's idea. Wallace was part of Roosevelt's brain trust. Then there are those who say, no, Truman is way too progressive. They say, look at what he's done with integration. And they instead back this man, Strom Thurmond, who is governor of the state of South Carolina. Thurmond is someone who believes in segregation, the separation of the races. When the convention was held, Truman was able to get the nomination. And in his acceptance speech, he said that his campaign would be that of blaming the Do-Nothing 80th Congress for most of the problems that had developed between 46 and 48. On the campaign trail, it will be three candidates running for president. There is Truman, shown here in the picture as the Democrat. We already know about Dewey running for president as a Republican, but there's also Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond is going to run as a Dixiecrat, a Democrat from one of the seceded states who wants to be president. Now this obviously is going to divide the Democratic Party. Now every time Truman can, he stops his train and reminds the crowd that the problem are the Republicans, that the people should unite behind him and the Democratic Party, and things will be better. In one of the greatest upsets in political history, Truman is going to defeat Dewey and Thurmond and win another term as president. Now, it is the custom of both big city newspapers to print up two editions so that when they discover who is the victor, they can get that edition out. Obviously, this Chicago newspaper kind of got the wrong edition out. If you'd like to see this newspaper, it is in the Truman Library. Let's hear more about the '48 election.
You know, I covered every inch of the Truman Whistle-Stop campaign. I was every farmyard and Main Street and the rest of it up, and I'd see these big crowds, and I think, well, Dewey has bigger crowds. Whatever I felt, I thought Dewey was going to win. I didn't know anyone who thought otherwise. Anybody.
The New York Times was predicting Dewey would run away with the election. The Gallup poll was so certain of the outcome, it stopped polling before the end of October.
The night of the election, the head of the Secret Service went to New York to be with Mr. Dewey because he clearly was going to be the next president. And it just looked like a sure thing. And the only one who didn't think it was a sure thing was Harry Truman.
One evening, 3 or 4 days before the election, an anxious Bess Truman went quietly to see her husband's aide, Clark Clifford.
And she said, Clark, do you think Harry really believes that he can win? And I said, he gives every assurance of it. Mrs. Truman. She says, well, he keeps saying he's going to win. Well, I said, that's the he feels. I said, he's going to feel that way right up to the end. But she said it's so hard to find anybody else who thinks that he can win. I think she felt that he did not have any chance of winning.
On election night, to escape reporters, Truman checked into a hotel in Excelsior Springs, just outside of Independence. He had a ham and cheese sandwich, a glass of buttermilk, and went to sleep. When he woke up, he learned he had pulled off the greatest upset in the history of American politics. Not one pollster or radio commentator or newspaper columnist had got it right. No one had dared predict a Truman victory.
I sent the following wire to President Truman. My heartiest congratulations to you on your election and every good wish for a successful administration. I urge all Americans to unite behind you in support of every effort.
As you can tell from the map, it is an easy victory for Truman in popular vote. That's the bottom pie chart. But if you look at the top pie chart, it is a very close election between Truman, Dewey, and Thurman. Now, Roosevelt had built the Democratic Party on farmers, unions, and the southern states. We see now that the southern states are beginning to break away. And this is something that will continue until 1964, when all of the states that had seceded from the Union will turn Republican, and most of them still are Republican. Now, I don't know about you, but to me this literally screams essay question. I'm something that I think you might want to think about for the quiz. In Truman's second term, he's going to be set with problems that deal with communism. Now, one of the problems is a war of communist aggression. That's what we'll be looking at tomorrow. Also, though, there is going to be communists that are in our federal government. Enter Joe McCarthy. Now, Joe McCarthy is a United States Senator from the state of Wisconsin. And McCarthy believes that it is his task to ferret out communists in our government. Now, McCarthy is going to be appointed to be a part of a committee that he heads, and McCarthy will use unscrupulous methods to try to ferret out who the communists are. In some cases, he will just outright lie or make up facts. Being called McCarthy-like is a sign that what you are doing is fundamentally wrong. Here is somebody trying to explain McCarthyism to us.
Hey Vision Chasers, this is Dr. Berg here with another social studies lesson for you today. In today's lesson, I answer the question, what was McCarthyism? During the Cold War, people in the United States were living under the shadow of a bomb that could potentially end the world. And also, people in the United States were scared that communists were trying to overthrow the government by working as undercover agents for the Soviet Union. And one senator, his name was Joseph McCarthy, he actually spread fear by using a tactic known as McCarthyism. Now, Joseph McCarthy was elected as a senator in 1946. However, he hadn't made a whole lot of accomplishments during his time as a senator, and he feared that he would not be reelected. As a result, he changed his tactics. He was a great speaker, and he used this to his advantage. He vigorously protested against communism, and this was a message that was easy to agree with, and he gained more supporters as a result. In 1950, he took it even further, claiming that over 200 communists were working inside the United States government in order to destroy it. Senator McCarthy won re-election, and he was very popular as a result of his speaking out against communism. The beginning of the Korean War made many people scared of criticizing McCarthy, even though his allegations were not proven to be true, and his numbers changed. However, factual events gave credibility to McCarthy's accusations. Now, even President Eisenhower chose not to criticize McCarthy as a result of his overwhelming popularity. And what gave McCarthy even more credibility was the arrest of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg on suspicion of espionage. Additionally, the tossing of accusations and speculation of communists living in the United States became known as McCarthyism. Now, McCarthyism led to over 1,500 government workers losing their jobs with little or no evidence of them even being communists. Now, McCarthy was supported by the people until he went too far in the Army McCarthy hearings in 1954. In front of many TV viewers, he accused the Army of promoting communism. He also appeared intoxicated, he slurred his speech, and he also made very little sense at times. As the hearing goes on, those in attendance are frustrated with McCarthy, and McCarthy is asked this question: "Have you no decency, sir?" Those in attendance erupt in agreement and applause, and this would mark the end of his overwhelming popularity.
Now, we'll get more into McCarthy and the Army when we get into the next lesson. It was in the House that we see a young Richard Nixon, who had also been elected in 1946 to the U.S. House. Now, Nixon had been appointed chairman of the House Un-American Activities Committee. The House Un-American Activities Committee mirrored what McCarthy was doing in the Senate. Now, it was during Nixon's investigation that he came across the Alger Hiss affair. Now, Alger Hiss is a high-ranking State Department official, and Hiss is going to be accused of taking secrets from our government and giving them to the communists.
Hi, my name is Hugo Williams. I'm a historian, and here's what you need to know in order to sound smart about the House Un-American Activities Committee. Founded in 1938, the House Un-American Activities Committee represents one of the darkest chapters of American history. At the end of the Second World War, the United States found itself in an ideological conflict with its former ally, the Soviet Union. Concerned that communism would spread in the United States, the House Un-American Activities Committee stepped up its efforts to ferret out and expose communists within the government and all other aspects of American life. What the House Un-American Activities Committee could do was ask those whom it believed to have belonged to subversive organizations to come before the body to explain themselves. If one chose to plead the Fifth Amendment, as many did, it could be seen as a sign of guilt. And many individuals, by virtue of the fact of not testifying, were imprisoned for contempt. If one, however, chose to testify, the body would often push the person to name others or to identify other organizations or persons whom they deemed to be subversive. Very quickly, the activities of the House Un-American Activities Committee descended into a witch hunt, with the government targeting people with very little evidence. In 1969, the House Un-American Activities Committee was renamed the Committee on Internal Security. That renaming came during a decade when the House Un-American Activities Committee had lost influence and power. And in 1975, it was finally disbanded. Young people in large numbers came out in
This is a picture of Whittaker Chambers. Now, Whittaker Chambers appeared before the House Un-American Activities Committee and accused Alger Hiss of selling state secrets. Now, Chambers identified himself as a communist. Chambers is what we call a go-between. He would take the information from Hiss, and then he would take it to his communist handlers in New York. Now, the way it's supposed to work is Hiss was to go and get sensitive documents and take pictures of them. He would then take the negatives and he would hide them in a pumpkin that had been marked in such a way that Whittaker Chambers knew what the pumpkin contained. and then Hiss would leave. Chambers would come a few minutes later, go to the pumpkin and buy it. He then would take the film out, deliver it to his handlers. Alger Hiss said that Chambers was lying. Now, Alger Hiss came before the committee and testified. Now, during his testifying, he did tell some lies. And because of this, he was sent to prison for lying before Congress. Now, Whittaker Chambers has since passed on, but Alger Hiss is still very much alive. And Alger Hiss says that Whittaker Chambers made it all up. We heard one of the video guys talk about Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Julius is on the right, Ethel is on the left. They had worked on the Manhattan Project, the project to develop the atomic bomb. And both of them felt that the Soviet Union would be better off if they had the bomb, so they didn't even bother to sell the secrets, they just gave the Soviets the secrets. When discovered, both of them would be tried for treason, both of them would be executed. Now, Richard Nixon was from Southern California, where television shows were broadcast and movies were made. And Richard Nixon believed that there were people in the media that were coming up with ideas that were hurting the day-to-day lives of the committee, of the American people. As the leader of the committee, he asked some of these television moguls, movie stars, to come to Washington, D.C. and testify. Now, one of the people he asked to testify is Dalton Trumbo. He's the gentleman with the glasses and the pencil mustache. Dalton Trumbo was a highly successful screenwriter in Hollywood, had made many, many movie hits, and he is asked to testify. Trumbo comes, but he will not testify, and he takes the Fifth Amendment. In all cases, the committee believes that Trumbo is hiding other communists. These people who were called before the committee all refused to testify. All of them will be imprisoned for failure to testify. All of them will be blacklisted. Now, in the movie and television industry, it is the producer who hires the actors, hires the director, and hires the writers. And if the producers don't hire you or put you on a blacklist, then basically you're out of the industry. Trumbo found a way to work around this. Trumbo wrote under assumed names. Roman Holiday and The Bull were both written by Trumbo, and both of them are going to win Academy Awards.
I've always thought of my life as a sequence of conflicts, each separate battle segregated under the heading, my fight with these guys, or my fight with those guys. I've regarded each fight as distinct and unrelated to the other, and I've sometimes marveled how one man could have so many of them. I now realize it was all one fight.
Are you, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? I believe I have the right to be confronted with any evidence which supports this question. I should like to see what you have. Oh, well, you would, yes. Well, you will pretty soon.
The right to express ideas. Good ideas, bad ideas, wicked ideas, crazy ideas, impossible ideas. This is the most precious right the individual can have. And the interesting thing is that in the course of securing it for himself, he must inevitably guarantee it his enemy. Otherwise, there can be no freedom for anyone. It's not alone the loss of income or of property that hurts. The more terrible wound is the loss of a profession to which one's entire life has been dedicated. A director must have the facilities of a studio. A violinist must appear in person for the concert. The actor's physical personality, which is his greatest asset, becomes his supreme curse under the blacklist. A writer is more fortunate. Give him nothing more than paper, a pencil, and a nice clean cell, and he's in business. Dante, Cervantes, Milton, Hugo, a score of others have long since proved that in jail or out, writing under their own names or someone else's, writers will write. And having written, they will find an audience. When you look back with curiosity on that time, as I think occasionally you should, it will do no good to search for villains or heroes or saints or devils, because there were none. They were only victims. Some suffered less than others, some grew, some diminished. But in the final tally, we were all victims, because almost without exception, each of us felt compelled to say things he didn't want to say, to do things he didn't want to do, to deliver wounds he truly did not want to exchange. That's why none of us, left, right, or center, emerged from that long nightmare without sin.
Why didn't we avoid all this? Why didn't we answer the questions yes or no as the committee demanded? Because we wanted to challenge the right of the committee to ask such questions.
There are going to be wider areas of freedom in the country and the world as the Cold War diminishes, but no matter how pleasant the relaxation of governmental interference with the writer may seem, it will be wasted if we do not inquire into everything. That is where the secret of freedom is found. To question, to doubt, to dispute, to challenge. These are the rights we have compromised for ourselves, and which we must reestablish for our children. Sincerely, Dalton Trumbo.
Now again, I think this would make an excellent essay type question. In your opinion, something like that. Well, we are finished with the work for today. Immediately below this video are several questions for you to answer. A reminder that you must get them in by 11:59 p.m. Anytime after that, it is too late. Good luck to you.